Good day, friends. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to share today one of my sourdough pizza dough recipes. I have two recipes. This recipe is for a standard pizza dough, and I have another recipe for a thin crust pizza dough, which uses semolina flour, and I'll share that one at a later time. I will also include the recipe in the description box. So this recipe starts out with 1 cup of 00 flour, and then 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And this just really helps with the consistency of the dough. It's stretchable, but it also allows for a thicker pizza dough. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, and then I'll be adding 1 cup of sourdough starter at its peak. And with sourdough bread, you often start by adding the sourdough into the bowl and water, but I actually do it in reverse for this recipe. I start with the flour, the dry ingredients, and then I'll add the wet ingredients. And then I start with 3/4 of a cup of water. I usually put about a cup of water in my measuring cup, and then I add water as needed. But at minimum, you're going to need 3/4 of a cup of water. Now I'm going to start mixing it just until it comes together. And if I have any dry spots, I'm going to add a couple teaspoons of water. And the dough is coming together quite nicely. So now I'm going to transition to using my bowl scraper. And I'm going to clean the sides of the bowl and bring the dough further together. Once the dough has come together nicely, I'm going to use my hand and check on the consistency of the dough, and the dough is feeling good. I'm going to clean the counter and get ready to turn it out onto the counter and start kneading. And you will need to knead this dough for about 5 minutes. You want to make sure that it is a nice, smooth consistency. And you may need to add additional flour while you're kneading. And I do find that I need to add additional flour, so I'm going to add some flour onto the surface. You want a tacky dough, but you do not want a sticky dough. And also you do not want a dry dough. So it's the balance between a little tackiness, but not stickiness. And you'll see me knead the dough until it starts to come together as a smooth ball. We are now going to speed through this kneading process so that we can move on to the fermentation. Now the dough ball is looking great. I'm going to place it back into the mixing bowl after I have put in some olive oil. And then I'm also going to put some olive oil on the top of the dough. And I'm going to place it in a warm oven for 4 hours until it's doubled. 4 hours have now passed, and you can see the dough has doubled in size. I'm going to turn it out onto the counter, and then I'm going to separate it into 2 dough balls, and I'm going to weigh it so that I could get it exact. And you'll see here that when I eyeball it, I am definitely off. I need to add from the other dough ball, and it takes me a few tries until I get it even for both. You can certainly just eyeball it though if you want. You do not have to use the scale. Now that I have them the same size, I'm going to shape them into dough balls, and I'm going to stretch the dough into the center, as you can see, and then I'm going to flip it over and build tension on the surface of the dough. I'll be doing that for the second one, and the dough is beautifully stretchy, elastic, and that's what you want for pizza dough. So I'm building the tension on that dough, and then I'm going to place it into 2 containers. And again, I'm going to add some olive oil to make sure that the dough doesn't dry out. And you could certainly use this dough right away. I would let it sit out for another 30 minutes to relax and then stretch it out. But I'm going to place it in the refrigerator, and we'll be using it later on tonight. You could also leave it overnight in the refrigerator and use it the next day. Into the refrigerator it goes. Now my husband is going to demonstrate how to make a pizza from the pizza dough. The dough has been in the refrigerator cold fermenting for about 7 hours, and I took it out about 45 minutes in advance to ensure that the dough was at room temperature. If you try to stretch out cold pizza dough, you're going to have a difficult time. You really want to have it at room temperature. So you'll see my husband's technique. He's using the palm of his hand and also his fingers to stretch out the dough, and he's stretching it from the center out. And he's building a rim around the edge of the dough. That's how he likes his pizza. I tend to go for more of a flatter pizza dough, but he likes to build a nice rim around the dough. And as you can see, the dough is stretching nicely, and he's just pressing on it to get it to the size that he wants. Now that the dough is the size that he wants, he's going to build his pizza. And he'll start out with a light layer of pizza sauce. And then he's going to add some salami. And then he's going to add some mushrooms, and he's going to go heavy on his mushrooms today. One of the things you'll want to do when you're making pizza is make sure that you have all of your ingredients prepared in advance so you can quickly put your pizza together. Then he's going to be adding some rosemary, some fresh rosemary. He likes to add fresh herbs as well as dry herbs, and you'll see that at the end once he's cooked the pizza. I'll also note that we use a cast iron pizza stone, and we preheat it in the oven at 475 degrees. And you really want to let it preheat for an hour. You want that to be piping hot. You'll be able to cook your pizza very quickly if it's hot. Now he's adding some red onion and garlic. And last but not least, he's going to add some goat cheese. Now he's going to do a quick wash of the hands, and then he's going to transfer the pizza onto a cutting board so that he can move it to the oven. And then into the oven it goes for 12 minutes at 475. And this is the pizza coming out. It looks beautiful. It's got a nice rim around the pizza. It's got good color. He's going to add some dry herbs. That was oregano he added. He's going to add some parm cheese, some red pepper, and then also some fresh basil. And now it's time to cut into the pizza. Let's see what that looks like. Piping hot, that's what it is. The pizza looks great. Look at that crust on the bottom. And now the taste test with audio.